Today I'm going to show you how I do lights around the plant beds with the stakes. And so first, it's really helpful if you pre-bulb your socket wire. I kind of was slacking last night, so I didn't have time. But there's two types of clips that I usually go between. These ones are the cheapest, but they're not always the easiest to put on. These ones are a lot easier to put on, but they're not the cheapest. I don't remember the names of them, but these ones are just kind of a ring shape, and you put it on, there's two little openings there. You want to make sure those openings are on the sides where the wire goes, and then it just goes straight on, and you just rotate it to keep it on. There's little teeth on the bottom end of it that kind of help dig into the wire and hold it steady. They can untwist while you're taking them off, so you have to be careful, but it's usually not too big of a deal. These ones, on the other hand, you have those little clips on them, and you have to get the wire to go through each end. So you have to clip on one side, and then the other side, and then you can kind of pull it through. And I've had the most issues with these. If it's really bad socket wire, it can actually, the socket, the bottom part of it can actually come loose, and so the wire will lose connection with the bulb. So you have to be careful with them. But again, they're super cheap. That's why most of the time I use these. But when I can splurge and get the easier to put on ones, or if I'm really in a hurry and I just got to go fast, my schedule's all lined up, sometimes I'll go ahead and splurge and spend a little extra on these. So either way, if you can pre-bulb them, I just like to kind of drop them straight down into a box or bucket and then keep it in that box. Then when it's time for me to come and take them out, I just simply lift them out, and they usually come out fairly unscathed, in good shape, and not getting all tangled. Sometimes if you rumble it around too much or shuffle it, you got to be careful not to do that too much, because it can get kind of packed in there, and then when you pull it out, it'll get tangled. These are a little harder, a little trickier to work with if they're pre-bulbed. So if there's anything that I would wait to do on the site, I would bulb them first and then put the clips on when you get to the location. So my outlet is right there. I'm going to have a timer plugged in for now. The plug comes out down here. There's the female out. The rest of the power goes up to the rooftop. But in the meantime, I'll be plugging in here. So I want to start right close to it. And when it comes to staking these down, the goal is to have them relatively even height going across. So in the plant beds, a lot of times you're going to have mulch or different type of soil that can be really soft and things can move around. The goal is not to try to push the stake all the way down. The goal is to get it in the ground good enough so that it's going to stay still and not fall over. But you more want to balance out the tops so that they're evenly spaced height-wise. And I prefer to go in front of the plant bed when I can. But in this case, we got a lot of stones. A lot of stuff is going on here. So I'm going to have to go inside of the bed. Which the nice thing, say this had a lawn, which it doesn't. If you had a lawn, sometimes it's safer to go inside the bed just so that nobody comes through with a weed whacker or edger or something else and ruins the lights. So in this case, I'm just doing what I gotta do. But the reason I like to go in front of the retaining wall is because somewhere like this, the light can really splash against the side of the stone and it makes it look really pretty. The other thing you gotta watch out for is, like over here, this retaining wall is up about 4 inches or maybe 3 inches above the soil level. So I have to be careful not to push this in too far, otherwise it'll get buried by the front here and you won't be able to see the light as well. So I have it poking up just enough where you have a good shot from the road. I'd also add that they do make taller stakes so that if you have a bit of a dip or something that's bigger than that, sometimes you have retaining walls where there's almost a foot gap between the top of the soil and the wall. So they have 12-inch stakes that you can use, but I just try to avoid it whenever I can and stick with the 4 to 6 inch stakes like I have here. You don't want it to be touching the ground. Remember, the closer the stake is to the ground, the more likely you're going to have water damage occur. If there's flooding coming down this plant bed, water's streaming over top, it can get into here and you can it brings the dirt with it. So I've had other places where it's a little bit lower point where the water might be draining right down here And if you were to have this, if you were to have a light clip down here and you push it all the way into the soil, that water could actually bring dirt and debris into this little socket and cause it to corrode a little bit prematurely. So if you have it nice and elevated, I don't like it high, but just enough so that the water is going to stay away from the socket, that makes me a lot happier. I've already put these lights in the ground, and I'm going to run power cord up to the lights up there. So there we have the male end of this extension cord that I already custom cut. I'm just going to put it inline female right there. So we're all set. I'm plugging it in, and our lights are on. I just want to make sure this extension cord stays nice and hidden behind the gutter so nobody sees it and it doesn't get caught or fall down. This is the last bulb in that section. You can see I just kind of tucked the wire into that little clip and it's just spiked in. So we're going to go there. Now, a pretty important mistake that you don't want to make. I've seen a lot of times where people will run across the ground, put a female plug there and run across to that other section. And while it seems convenient and it might work for you, it's not a good idea, because then you have a live wire right across the main walkway, the entryway, and people are likely to trip over it, or just bad things can happen. You don't want to risk that. So instead of doing that, we're not going to start on this end. We're going to go to the far end here. That's the last bulb of this section. And you can see there's a gutter here. And we have lights up there already. So I'm just going to go ahead and, like we did over on that other section, I'm going to run power, put a female plug up there, drop it down the gutter, and then plug in to the other light right there. So you can see that's the last bulb. I already plugged in the female end of the zip wire that's going to go up to the top. All right, so I have it plugged in there, drop down, and then across, and everything's on. So now I'm just going to do a final walkthrough, make sure everything's plugged in and working, and then when all's all done, I'll put on one of these timers. They have the photocells on there, so it comes automatically at sunset and stays on for 8 hours.